Hey guys, this is your girl Tomi Fanilola, your purpose and business coach. So I'm starting an episode called "Discovering Your Purpose," and the purpose of this is just for me to just talk to young people, men, male and female, that I know that are blazing through and just living through their purpose. The reason why God has created them. I'm so excited to have my first guest. He is my brother, my blood brother, and I can't wait to get into this conversation. Please welcome Michael Omoniyi.
That's so kind of you. How you doing?
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Good. I don't have a trim. I don't look as put together as you, but
yeah,
I'm
you're
here.
in the UK. I have to look it together because I have Michael. Well, if you remember, I never used to get hay fever, and then in Maryland I got it, a couple of times. But since we moved to Texas last year, I had eye infection. So most times I just look, like in the morning I wake up, my eyes stuck together. It's a hot mess, so I have to look put together. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me on the first episode of this, series. Of course, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself as well. But like I mentioned before, I'm a purpose and business coach. And what I do primarily is just to help women especially discover their purpose. And I also teach principles to turn that purpose into profit and impact. Apart from me being a coach, I am also a hair and makeup artist. I've been doing hair for about 15 years, more than that, probably makeup professionally for about 8 years. I mainly do bridal makeup. I have a home studio here in Frisco, Texas. I am also a wife, a mother of 2 kids, Amir and Josiah, who just drive me. Yeah, they're good children. But yeah, and Michael, please introduce yourself.
I love that intro. I was thinking about this with a friend the other day. See, when we were younger, Mum would like show us pictures of herself when she was younger with us, and we're like, "Oh, do you reckon with your kids when they're older, they're gonna look back at your videos and see when you were thinking about them?" Which is such an interesting thing.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm like rolling my eyes.
Like, Mom, why are you saying that about us?
Like, wow, Mom.
No, it's a privilege to be here, and especially to be like one of the first people you're speaking to. To those who are listening, the name is Mike, or MT. People call me Omoniyi, and I do a number of different things. But I guess the best way to describe what I do is, I'm super interested in problems and fixing problems, solving problems. So I manage a number of different projects. And that sees me looking after 3 different companies, one of which is a news company called the Common Sense Network. We may talk about that later. It's basically a news network for millennials, by millennials here in the UK. I look after something else called the Apex Group. It's a secret group of CEOs and founders, again, based here in the UK. I look after a charity called Our God-Given Mission. I'm a Christian, so we do lots of work, train up missionaries, helping people understand the gospel, preach the gospel, that kind of stuff. And I consult for a number of different institutions, universities. I'm on the board of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. I'm on the board of a university. So lots of kind of cool things, but all around solving problems, especially wicked and kind of sticky problems. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, nice intro. You're not married, right? Married?
Not yet.
Kids? Okay, not yet.
I'm a dad of one, not of none. Sorry. I'm a dad of none.
Do we need to stop this live and then go have a conversation?
Yeah, I want to have a chat.
Okay, so let me just tell you the reason why I wanted to speak to Michael. Of course, I've known Michael all his life. And I remember when I called him to say, hey, I want to actually have you be one of my first guests. I told him like what Michael is doing now. I'm not surprised to see what he's doing because a lot of things that he's doing now, he's spoken into existence. I hate when people use those words, not hate, but like, when people like, oh yeah, let the universe, not that way. I mean that, I mean that he knew why God created him from a very young age. Like Michael was always into like, public speaking. I remember the one you did in year 11. Like I've always just been so proud as a sister. And I remember saying to you that, just seeing you walk your path now, it's not a shock because again, you've discovered who you were from a young age. I guess I want to kick it off by asking you this question. Like, would you say you're truly, don't just say, okay, because I said it, but would you say you're truly walking your purpose? And if it's yes, which I know it is yes, when did you discover your purpose?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And when I thought about it, I want to be as honest in this kind of conversation as possible. I don't want to kind of say the right thing, as it were. I want to be honest. And I guess the question comes it's a bit loaded because I don't want it to seem like I know everything that I'm meant to do.
Because it's a journey. Yep.
It's not that at all, if I'm being totally frank with you. However, I do have a very acute sense of the kind of shape God has made me to have, right? For want of a better term. What I mean by that is unconsciously, I guess, or subconsciously rather, we start walking and doing a lot of the things that we were called to do when we're young.
Yeah.
You know, without when there's no money attached, or there's no kind of popular. You're not trying to be big or whatever. You're just doing what you
trying to be famous
do.
on Instagram. Yep.
Yeah. And back in those days, yeah, I loved projects. Anytime there was a challenge, I loved maths. Anytime the teacher said like, "Oh, we're trying to do this thing," I would get excited. Like, "Oh, you know, we should put it here, or let's do that. Let's arrange it." That. I've always had that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. So I would say I got saved probably properly at probably 14, 15 was when I understood like what the whole Jesus thing was about and thought, you know what, I actually believe this guy. And when I got saved and I started to get closer to God and I started to read the Bible and understand, you know, how the world works, for another better term, it became very clear to me that God has put me on this earth to build things.
Yeah.
I like building things, I like structuring things, I like arranging things, whether it's the body of Christ, whether it's people, whether it's businesses, whether it's organizations, whether it's projects. I love building. I'm equipped for it. My weaknesses make sense in view of building. You know, I'm a very project oriented person. Once I'm done, I'm done. So that's as much as I know. In terms of all the kind of idiosyncratic, kind of bespoke things, I actually don't know. You know, and I'm just trusting God about like the next steps. But I know for a fact I'm a builder.
Yes.
I'm a builder.
Yes, I love that you said that key word, you being a builder. And I think being a purpose coach, and what I tell people when people are like, you know, I don't know why I'm here. And a lot of people are just winging it, literally just going through life saying, okay, let's see what works. But I think it's very important for us as human beings, especially believers, to understand the core of why you're here. Of course, purpose is a journey, and along the way, you're going to find things that no longer interest you. You're going to find things that, wow, I'm not good at it. When people ask me, Tomi, how do you know what your purpose is? One thing I always say is, there is that going to be that one thing that you do so easily that other people struggle with. Me personally, when just like you, I became serious with my walk with Christ when I was 13, 14. That's when I was conscious about the decision I was making. And I remember, I've always been an encourager. Like, I'm someone that I could easily put aside what I'm going through to encourage somebody else. I could wake up in my sleep and somebody say, Tomi, speak life into this person. And I'm able to do that regardless of, you know, what I'm irrespective of what I'm going through. Yeah. And in doing that, being that kind of person, I started growing up to be this woman who was unstoppable, where if I put my mind to something, I am going to do it. In building women, and I always say that, you know, me and you are similar in that aspect, you know, when it comes to our mindset. So I'm similar that way, saying that, you know, I love to build women up. I love to let women know that you can be all God has created you to be. And it's funny that I'm still doing that even after being married and having kids. People are like, how do you do it? How much time do you have? And I'm like, no, it's not because I have more time than anybody else. But I just don't believe that because I am now a mother, because I'm now a wife, I put aside my purpose. Before I met my husband, I had my purpose. I knew where God was taking me to. And sometimes some people, it takes them, you know, a bit longer to discover why they're here. And it's fine, which is why I wanted to start this kind of conversation so that, you know, people might listen to another person's story and they're inspired and like, oh, wow, that's actually similar to what I do. Oh God, okay, you know, and they start talking to God about that. So another question. So thank you for that answer. It's great that you said that, you know, it's not just one thing, but you just know that you're a builder, which is a key factor to that. So I would say my next question to you is, so in your journey now, what would you say were the contributing factors that has led you to where you are today? I know that being a believer is one of them. Yeah. So what are the other things that you would say that you did from a young age that has kind of led you to where you are today?
Hard question, of course. And again, want to be honest. I love what you said about, you know, because God's the one. Purpose is, the definition is simple. It's the reason why something's made or created, right? And since God created us, we can't give ourselves our purpose. I believe it's God. I believe we have to work out our vertical, and our vertical then affects our horizontal. So like, you know, God's biddings are in his enablings, in that when God calls us to do something, he equips us for it. So the way you can encourage people at will is the way some people are like, oh, how do you have time for all these different projects? I'm like, mentally, I find it easy to hold lots of big, complicated things in my head. It's just kind of normal for me. However, some things I can't do. There's a lot, when it comes to like, I'm learning emotional empathy and all these different things are things that
okay, brother. Finally.
Amen to that. Before, someone would be crying and I'd be like, there's not reason to cry. Just be like, why? I don't get this.
Whereas, okay, you'll be all right. Yeah. Let's move on now.
So I know I haven't been called to that ministry. However, I am trying to get better at that too. In terms of the contributing factor, looking back, we do this thing where you can draw the lines and everything makes sense retrospectively. The lines always connect retrospectively. Looking forward, it's very difficult to know exactly what's going to lead to what and what's going to, it's very difficult. But one thing I will say is I am always a kind of, I'll do it type of person. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I've put my hand up for so many different things. And inadvertently, one thing has led to another. And somehow when I look back now, I can see that, oh, wow, God was really doing this thing, right? Yeah. But realistically, all I do is I put myself forward for opportunities. I volunteer. I'm involved and engaged enough that serendipity may happen, luck may happen, goodwill may happen. And so, of course, I can speak about being disciplined and being diligent. I can speak about valuing networks and making friends with people. I can speak about, building strong relationships and investing into people. But ultimately, I think being available, being open and being optimistic about opportunities and just putting yourself out there, that's what I can say I've done. The rest will be reading backwards and trying to.
And things just kind of, it kind of just fit, the pieces just comes together. I love what you said about being like just volunteering. And I think we live in a culture now where people just want the quick success. Like social media is kind of just giving people this false ideology that, things just come together. Like even for some believers, people forget that you have to have work ethic. There's a lot of things that we have to do for God to, not even for God to move you, but there was a thought that came to my head yesterday saying that stop praying for positions you're not ready for. People are like, oh yeah, God, I just want to get to this place. Show me, my purpose. I want to live it. And then you get to the place, you're not working hard. If you don't have some things in place, that position, that opportunity that you've gotten, it will be taken away from you because it's one thing to get a job, but you also have to work to keep that job, right? Because again, life doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand, and demand is just you're speaking it and then it happens. You have to, work for it. So I love what you said about, just you put yourself out there and I want to advise anyone listening to this today where you're still kind of discovering why God has put you here. Honestly, put yourself out there, volunteer, because sometimes you may not know. So for some people, it comes easy. They just, it's, oh, I was born to sing. Like you can just, from a young age. And some people, they had a quicker voice when they were younger and they were able to develop it. And now they're like, world known and they're really good at what they do. And it's not just one size fits all when it comes to finding your purpose. Another question, I want to just go a different route now. I said route. Lord.
You are where you are.
Oh goodness. A different route is that I know, one of the projects that you do lead is this Common Sense Network. And I know just, the foundation of that story of how much work it was, and I'm sure it still is, and how challenging it is. And even knowing you as my brother and just the work ethic that you have, even before the Common Sense Network came to fruition. So can you talk about one, I know there were many challenges, but can you talk about one particular challenge that you had when you were starting out the Common Sense Network?
So that's difficult. And, for folks who are thinking, what is this Common Sense Networking? Just think about like Fox News or CNN, right? Think about these big media networks that exist. And think about a guy on the side going, well, hold on. How come these people control the narrative? Especially when it comes to Black stories, when it comes to independent stories. Why is it that they control the narrative? Why don't we try and build something that's ours, that belongs to us, where we can actually kind of tell our own narrative and we can empower ordinary people? Now, in the UK, three white men control 84% of the news output. So they set the agenda, they set the narrative, all the conversations that happen, you know, in the lunch hall, you know, around dinner tables, they set the agenda. So I just thought, okay, cool, let's try to change this. So I'm Black. I'm from a
You are? Oh.
I'm from a family that's rich in wisdom. You know, that my mom gave me everything she could possibly give me, but she just didn't give me £100,000, which is what we needed to get started. This is what we needed to get started. So the biggest challenge right at the beginning was probably having the confidence enough, if I'm honest, to think that we could actually change things. Because that 100,000 quid buys you a couple of cameras and then it's done. Now, that's a drop in the ocean when you consider the fact that one presenter, who's someone who sits down and talks at the BBC, could take home £834,000. So you see how, like, it's such a distorted. So it was like it was a David and Goliath type situation. The most difficult part was me believing genuinely that I could actually somewhat change things. Not that I could change the whole system because I'm just one guy. But that I could actually have an impact and make a dent, you know, in the war. That was hard. And I think, as much as I'm very driven and whatever, there was a part of me that was like, do you really think you can do something, right? And overcoming that was a journey, I guess, and it's still a journey. You know, recently I had a bit of a life, not existential crisis per se, but I had a kind of a bit of a wake up call when someone was leaving Common Sense, so leaving the organization, and I decided to do the exit interview, which I don't normally do, but I thought, let me get to know like what their time was like here. So I'm having a conversation with them, and they're leaving, and I was like, yeah, cool, you know, thank you so much for your hard work. You know, what's next for you? And I thought they're gonna, you know, I'm getting a job here, you know, that kind of stuff. But they were like, no, I wanna move to a different country, and I wanna, you know, bartend for a bit, see if there's any opportunities. And literally, as I was speaking, I was hearing "ga go," because I thought, this is madness. What kind of, like, as a Black person, a Black young male, I have been coached, get a job, buy a house, sit at home. Like, I've been coached that one day the money's just gonna disappear. So you better, That's fair. That's not a problem. But I looked at her and I just thought to myself, I wish I could like dream like this and just kind of explore. And then the Bible says God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. So I'm laughing at her like, look at this woman. And then I'm praying later on, and God's like, but you know what's funny, Mike? As I'm praying, it's like, that's what's funny, Mike. You're a believer. What kind of a believer builds a life that's built around their fears? Like, how can you claim to be your choices reflect your fears? And then in praying, I was asking myself the question, do my life choices reflect the hopes I have for my life and God, or do they reflect the fears I have? And honestly, to full transparency, initially I'm like, oh, of course it's hopeful, I'm doing business. But it's like, you built a life around your fears. You're scared.
You don't want to be, you don't want to have nothing.
And and that's a terrible way to live life, building a life around, you know, I might be broke. It's like,
like, I can't be broke. And you're so driven, and oh my goodness, I can't be broke. How about that? You know, God, I know you can do this.
And I want to explore. I want to live.
Yes.
So literally, as I thought that, it's why I'm making some big decisions soon, which maybe will be announced at some stage. But I really want to live an optimistic life where, you know, I'm really trusting God to do whatever He wants to do in my life, and I don't have to have all the details and all the kind of plans. But I'm going to do it because I know that God genuinely controls everything in the world. And so I don't have to be afraid of making those decisions.
I love that. And I think for a lot of us that are believers as well, there was a preaching that I listened to about faith. And the pastor was like, I think it was Pastor Conway, it was like saying that faith is when you have crazy faith, it's you moving without knowing all the details. And if God gave a lot of us all the details, we won't go back to God because we just literally at that one time write it down. Okay, when I get to this place, turn left. Okay, cool, thanks, cheers, And you get so busy in trying to get to that path, you forget the person that gave you the vision in the first place. And that's why God uses that to stretch us, where he gives you just enough that you need to just move, and he wants to see if you're going to move. And I want to share, just briefly share my own story as well. Even coming to America from the UK, of course, I didn't have all the details. One thing that brought me here was marriage. And clearly, I've never lived in America. I've come to visit a couple of times, and coming to visit and living in a country is totally, there are two completely different things. Like, it's not the same. And coming here, of course, I had faith. But I remember even before, after me and Corey started courting, and me and my husband, I say, look at you, like everyone knows my husband. And me and Corey started courting, and then I remember I'll never forget, I was still in Portsmouth. It was my final year, and I was walking along the beach, because we have, Portsmouth has a stony beach. So I was walking, I was just in a prayer walk, and I remember praying to God. I said to God, God, if this relationship is not your will, I don't want my visa process to go through. I said, if somehow I got lucky and the person liked me, they gave me a visa, I want to be sent back at the airport. Like, I was literally praying prayers that some people are like, okay, that's a bit extreme. Like, girl, I was like, just in case I'm in this la la land, I'm in a bubble, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in love, and I'm not hearing you clearly. I need a sign,
Wake me up.
Wake me up. I've just seen that meme where when girls say, God, give me a sign, and God, you just knock them out, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, and they still keep going. I didn't want to be that person, because I knew that moving my whole life, where the UK is all I've known, and obviously being Nigerian, I was like, yeah, I don't know how it would start, but that was a big leap of faith. I was into makeup already. I was already building my clientele. In fact, a lot of my friends were like, hey, Tomi, you're doing my wedding. Like, I had friends who just had faith in me that I could do their wedding, even though I was like, 2-3 years into doing makeup. And then coming here, having to start all over again, that was crushing. I'm not even going to lie, because some people ask me about, when you relocated, like, and some people are amazed that I'm still doing what I was doing when I was back in the UK. And I'm like, it's all God, because at the end of the day, I didn't know what it was going to be like for me here. Would I... Yeah. It's the point that people are like, oh, would you move back to London? I'm like, no, I don't see myself living in the UK anymore. Like, right now, I've been here for 6 years, and I'm building a life for myself now. And I can actually say, I know, I have an idea that God is taking me to even bigger places, and here in London.
Amen.
How about that?
You know what's so good as well? I heard this recently. Like, if you step out in faith and following your purpose, wherever it is, and you hit rock bottom, God made the rock.
Yeah.
So that rock bottom, there's lessons to learn there. There's things to rebuild. Like, you can't actually fail. Like, when we fail at something, again, I'm a believer, we fail in God's arms. What better, where better is better fail than in the arms of the person who created the whole world?
Yeah.
And I think once one removes that failure complex from their head, this notion that, I can fail. Like, I don't believe I can fail. Not in a kind of, oh, I'm amazing type of way. In like my dad, it's like doing an exam. I always tell people, it's like, imagine you're doing an exam and your dad's the examiner.
Yeah.
He's also the one marking the test. Yeah. He's also the invigilator. Yeah. Like, you're gonna pass.
Yeah.
This is the point.
It might be 20 out of 100, but in his head, you're gonna
good. Pass. And this is the thing. Like, when the Bible says, if God be for us, right? Like, who genuinely can be against us? And that just frees us up, I think, to really follow like purpose. And I'm always doing, like, I mentor some young guys, and for a while now, and it's always the same issue. Once you're about to graduate from university or college, the question is always, do I get a job and settle, or follow the godly impulse I have in my heart? And we're always going back and forth on it. And ultimately, I just tell people, like, you don't want to get to a stage where the who you are meets the who that you could have been, and you exchange, and you're like, I could have lived this life.
I miss it. Yeah.
There's a guy I know who's like working in banking now, but he wants to be an actor. And I was saying, bro, you can make a lot of money from banking. We know that. But what happens when you're at some corporate event and they bring in like all these actors, and you're just sat there looking at them like,
that could have been me.
Regret weighs more than fear.
It does. So it weighs more.
You don't want to hold on to regret.
Yeah.
Just do your thing. Go for it. Live an optimistic life, and trust that God's gonna make the dots connect, even if you don't quite see how it's gonna work.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, yeah, I remember saying to one of my, she's like my a business partner, do I call her a sister? And I was saying to her that the last thing I would want is that, like, on Judgment Day, I get in front of God, I'm going to show me the life I could have lived. And I'm here like, God, look at me. I was encouraging women and this. And he's like, actually, girl, this is not why I sent you there. This is actually your life. And I was like, that like you said, regret weighs more than fear. Do I not say, okay, can you send me back, please? Let me just go relive the life, you know? It's not going to work that way. And I think, if anything, the first step I would say to believers, especially because a lot of people say they're Christians, but life, everything is totally opposite that of a believer. It's just you getting back in tune with your creator. I think once you are in tune with who created this whole earth, that's when you begin that journey of truly discovering who you are. Like, you have to go back and get in touch with that inner child when you were younger. Because a lot of us, we had the natural thing came to us, but we have parents, you have society that talks us out of what came natural to us. You know, there's a lot of us, like, you know, I know people, I remember this uncle in Nigeria used to tell me, yes, I lawyer, and I'm just like, just because I talk doesn't make me a lawyer. And guess what did I do in school? I went to study law and business. Am I practicing law now? No, I'm not. So that's the thing. Like, some of us, we may have to go get in touch with that inner child.
That's so funny.
But yeah, it's crazy. Like, you know, where subconsciously, like, even though you're like, oh yeah, no, this is not what I want. But people projecting their own fears on you, you know, their own ideas and think what you should be and what you shouldn't be. Sometimes it can get a bit noisy. Even with social media now, it's so noisy where everyone is just doing everything and anyhow.
Do you know what's crazy? I was on it. So I'm someone who, you know, when people talk about social media and the pressures, I'd be like, yo, I don't feel it. Until one day where I heard some bad news. There was a project I was doing that the money we're meant to get for it, they weren't going to give it anymore. So I was a bit in my feelings, a bit sad. And I'm on socials. So I'm just going on socials. And I'm just scrolling on Instagram. And I scroll for like, what? I don't know, maybe 4 minutes, something like that. I don't know, maybe whatever. And in those 4 minutes, the amount of things I saw, I was so confused. As in, I genuinely felt someone was launching a new book, and I was like, I should write a book. Someone was like, they were holding their wife. I was like, probably time to stop.
It's happening with marriage.
And at the end of the 4 minutes, I was actually like, my head actually hurts. Not their fault. But there's just so much information that I don't think our brains evolved for taking that amount of information.
And that's why I don't know if you've ever watched The Social Dilemma, and I think that's why technology is slowly taking out people's brains from them, because people are not even able to reason. People are like you said, it's confusion. And I think if you don't know the core of who you are and you're still confused about who you are, you're going to develop jealousy, you're going to develop anxiety, you're going to develop this hatred even for your friends, that you will literally scroll past your friend's accomplishment, but you're like, yeah, I know him anyway. It still owes me money. Or like, yeah, she don't even know that. Family is not great. Yeah, right. Like, and it's like, because you don't have anything going for yourself, so you're projecting how your internal feelings on somebody else's good thing. And there are people who also go on there to just lie. And I'm like, you know, people know you in real life, right? So when you don't know who you are, you don't have a direct, you know, path or direct sense of why you're here. It's very, 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 it's highly possible you're going to be confused. You're going to develop a lot of this spirit that shouldn't be in a child of God. So I love that you said that. Let's talk about friendships and circles, because I feel like friendships, the circle that you keep is so important as well. It has a power to change the trajectory of your life, like, you know, where you're going and where God has called you. What part would you say, or what impact would you say the kind of people that you keep around you, your circle, has made in your life?
Yeah, it's very important. I think it's even probably more important for myself, because in the line of work I'm in, I meet people all the time. It's kind of like the job, you know, you always meet new people. And I'm always kind of picking up a new project, and everyone's like, my name's Jack, my name's Fred. You're like, yeah, hey. You work together for a while and then you cut. So in my kind of line of work, I'm always meeting new people. So it's important to have some people who've known you for a while. God did challenge me about this, because I used to always be like, I want friends who are just like me, you know, driven, blah, 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 blah. I start to realize, now that I'm getting a bit older, I guess my prism for picking friendships is I have a very low bar for people I associate with. I actually associate with anybody. People message me on Instagram within 3 weeks where I'm FaceTime talking. Like I'm very happy to talk to people and have a conversation. But I have a very high bar for brotherhood and people I would call brothers. There's a couple of them. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of them aren't involved in the work I do. They're actually not in the same industry as me.
Yeah.
What I'm really interested in is people whose character I really value, and people who I want to be like.
Yes.
And that's where God challenged me. Rather than looking for people who are like, you know, just like me, driven, whatever. He was like, what do you want? Do you just want to be someone who's just driven? Like, what about the other parts of your life
that you need to fix?
You know,
the emotional side. Hey,
no, what about that empathy? What about all these other parts? Like, and so I have friends in my life now who don't care about news. A lot of them don't care about what I do. They don't respect what I do too much.
So I think that is good. It's good. No, they don't support you, but it's like it kind of gives you like a level set, right? Like it's not like it gets in your head. Yeah,
they talk to you like you're just a guy that they're friends, and on top of that, people that are closest to me are very kind because I like kindness and I want to be a kind person, and so I think you know, I can say cliche things like, you know, you become you become, you know, show me who your friends are, show you who you are. You become like the people you spend time with. But I just think people also should not be too transactional with friendships when they go, what are you doing for me? What am I doing for you? It's like, life's about journeying together. And you never know when someone will become ridiculously like helpful for you. The people always like, oh, if you're just the one helping your friends, then you need to cut them up. I'm like, let's stop.
That's a society today. Like, what do you give me? I don't have time. Match the energy. Like, it's just too much.
You hear that a lot, and I get it. I think there's a place for that. But ultimately, if we're lucky enough that God has put people in our lives, and we just need to be kind and to also not just one way of praising someone's value. It shouldn't be strictly on like, you know, business and blah blah blah.
Like it's a two-way street. And I know I say that a lot too, but I love what you said, like, you know, not to be so transactional, because at the end of the day, some of us have more grace to do some things more than others. Like some people just, you know, like I'm an empath, and some people just don't have it in them. Like they're still learning to. Doesn't make them a bad person, but it's just like, you know, it's something they have to go through. So do I then say, because I'm an empath and this friend that I have does not even do that, then we're not friends? Like one of my closest friends, she barely even says love you on the phone. I'm like, love you, and she's like, oh, okay, bye girl. I'm like, no. Stay. Like, and I know she's not a lovey-dovey person. In fact, I'm not necessarily a lovey-dovey person, but I do let people that I love know that I love them when I get off the phone. And I think stuff that we do in our family as well. So I'm used to that. So like with her, she's a great friend to me. Like we are sisters. Like we pray together. She's someone that I can be down and call her and say, sis, pray with me. And I know that she would genuinely, when she gets off the phone, go on her knees. Not like, oh, I'm praying. You know, some friends, I'm praying for you. Bro.
Once you say, I'll pray for you, that's the prayer.
That's the prayer. And that's the last time God is going to hear from them about you. How about that? But yeah, like, so she's not like that. But I can imagine, I can already see me stretching her in that sense. I have a friend who just loves to talk on the phone. I don't like talking on the phone. If I can text, I can text. But guess what? She will FaceTime me all the time. I don't want to even call her out. But yeah, she just like, I'm like, literally, I'm just like, sorry, I can't talk like that. She's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at work. She's like, oh, you're working again. I'm like, yes, girl, I'm working again. Like, but she's a close friend. And it's because, like, I wouldn't say because, she likes to talk and I don't like to talk on the phone or do FaceTime, she's not going to be my friend. So I think it's very important, especially for people that God has placed in your life. There's some people you just know that, okay, this is definitely a divine connection. Like this is God. There's a purpose for this friendship, you know. And there's some people that you meet, like you said, you meet a lot of people in your profession, in what you do, and you have to obviously be, you know, discern who needs to be close to you and who just needs to be a business transaction and just keep it moving. So I love that. Okay, I guess this kind of leads me to the next question about mentorship and you know, role models. I strongly believe in mentorship. Like and no one knows it all. Even your mentors have mentors, and then their mentors have mentors. What do you have any mentors, leaders, role models that you would advise anyone listening to follow? Like, especially young Black men. And obviously, if you have some perfumers as well, that would be great for you to
I'm
share.
a big believer in mentorship. The biblical term that we would use is discipleship.
Yes.
But, folks may say mentor, and it's the same thing really, other than I guess disciples are a bit more intentional.
Yeah.
Big believer. Yes, I have mentors. I have numerous, like at least 4 or 5 people who know me. I know them. We talk every month. Now there's different types of mentors. There's people like business mentors, but I also have life, spiritual.
Sure.
And I have to have it just because, like, the nature of leading stuff, if you lead to many things, you can kind of create a little life where you just say stuff and disappear.
Yeah.
So being in a place or being with people who can ask me difficult questions, who can encourage me. We all need encouragement. Doesn't matter who you are. Everyone needs encouragement. So I definitely believe in mentorship. I think what's also important though is there is this. I mean, there was a time where, like, in my community, we were talking about mentorship, and they got to a stage where everyone started to make it a thing. Like, I was finding a mentor. I was finding a mentor. Everyone was like, looking for a mentor.
I was finding a mentor.
So I was laughing because everyone was probably like, "Have you got a mentor? Who's your mentor? Okay, so you mentor him. So you mentor." And I was like, "Let's not miss
calm down."
The point isn't just to find someone you go like, "That's my mentor."
Yeah, like I have a mentor. Yeah, people just like it sounds cool.
Everyone loves it, and I'm like, rather than looking for. I remember I was in The Hague at a conference in the Netherlands, and there's this woman that works for Credit Suisse. She's kind of like the 4th in charge of Credit Suisse. She just gave this big speech, One Young World, big conference, 1,800 people. And she finishes speaking, then she walks off the stage, and we're in the kind of foyer. So we're in the foyer, and this friend of mine walks up to this highly inspirational, highly demanded, in demand woman, and she goes, "Can you mentor me?" And the woman's American. The woman was like, "No."
Oops.
And I was like, I know. But the woman explained. She was like, "I'm not gonna be able to give you time. I'm just waiting.
You don't even. Yeah.
So and then I love that the friend I was with was like, "Oh, thank you so much. Anyways, I'll learn from afar," something like that, which was really dignified. But that exchange showed me something, and it was like, one, that mentor could have said, yeah, knowing that she couldn't give the person full time. The friend I was with could have said, yeah, mentor me, just to add a name to their bio, mentored by whatever.
Yeah.
But rather than looking for that kind of thing, what I would advise people to do is to look around in their life. Who do you respect?
Yes.
Whose voice do you value?
Yes.
Who do you know, away from their public who do you know that their character is something that you would like to emulate? You have to be very honest with yourself about this.
Yeah.
Whose shoulder would you like to stand on? Because your mentor's shoulder is your floor. Yeah. Right? You stand on that, and you can do
great things. Yeah.
And to that end, maybe there's an uncle in your church. Maybe there's your mom's friend. Maybe there's someone. It doesn't have to be
so that has a platform on social media. People, that's the problem as well. Where people want, that's my mentor. Oh yeah. And it's like, you're not even, what are you getting from this relationship? Like, there even isn't, they don't know your character. And I love that you mentioned character, because you want someone that their public persona matches who they are in the private. Like, some people can put on a show. A lot of people, some people I know, they have a great social media presence, but their character in real life sucks.
One of my mentors, when I messaged him to ask, can he mentor me? He said he wanted to think about it for a while. He didn't reply for months. Yeah. So I chased him up, and I was like, "Hi, are you still thinking about it?" And he was like, "I'll be honest with you. He's American from New York." And he was like, he lives in the UK now, but he was like, "Mike, I thought about it. I love you. You're brilliant, whatever." And he was like, "But I just didn't think there was anything I can offer you." Like, and he said he didn't feel qualified, and that for me was every reason for me to chase him even more. Yeah, because I was like, one, he's definitely qualified. Yes, let's even start there. But the way he carried himself through that whole process, the fact that he thought about it,
humility.
I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be around you.
Around you,
like,
yeah. Like,
I
some people will be like, yeah, maybe he's right. I'm too big. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? I was like, but I was like,
Yeah.
nah, this is why I came to you, is because
Yeah.
beyond, and he's a New York Times bestseller. Like he's definitely qualified.
Yeah.
So just that enough was like, yeah. And the reason why we say all of this is because if you look at the biblical model, I mean, most people don't know where the term mentor comes from. I can share it really quickly.
Yeah,
mentor
share it, please.
From ancient Greece. Mentor was a person. You had three people. You had someone called Odysseus, someone called Telemachus, and someone called Mentor. And essentially, what had happened was Mentor was Odysseus's friend, and then Telemachus was Odysseus's son. And so one day, Odysseus came to Mentor and said, "Listen, I'm going to go off to war. And back in those days, if you go off to war, you're going to die. So he said, I'm going to go off to war. When I go, can you take Telemachus, who's my son, can you take him in as though he was yours? Can you prepare him for the role of taking over the family and becoming like the principal kind of man in the family?"
Because he knew that he was going away. Yeah.
Literally. So Odysseus, true to his word, went away, went to go and die. And then Mentor trained up Telemachus in what it means to be a man, how to look after your family, whatever. And so that process, they said he was mentoring him. And so moving forward, that's what we use as mentorship. Yeah. The one thing you can take from that story is mentorship in its purest form is about close proximity learning.
Yes, there has to be.
It's not about someone giving you wisdom.
Yeah, like it's not a role model. Yeah.
About watching somebody and having them teach you and take you through things. And if you look in the Bible, there's like Jethro mentored Moses. Moses mentors Joshua. Joshua mentors the early leaders in Israel. Jesus mentors his disciples. Paul mentors Titus. He mentors Timothy. Priscilla and Aquila. We have a model in the Bible of close proximity living where we're not just saying cute things, but we're watching people.
And in the humility as well.
In humility, we learn from that.
Yes, and and thank you for even giving that background story. And I actually have a post on my page about mentorship. I don't know if you ever saw it. Just the difference between a mentor, a coach, a role model. And like you said, that the close proximity is so important. It's not just, someone you don't even talk to, you talk to them once a year. I mean, I'm not saying you have to talk all the time, but there has to be that closeness where they're able to actually teach you and you're able to listen. That story that you gave, some people will take it as, he's not qualified. Yeah, I'm that good. So already you're thinking in your head that, I don't need this person because, I'm actually that good. That's a problem. You have to still reason that someone that you still want to learn. If you don't have a spirit of learning, you don't need a mentor. Maybe you do know it all, and then you can just do life on your own. But trust me, no one wants to mentor someone that be like, I know what you're gonna say. Yeah. And you're finishing the words of your mentor. Like, you don't need a mentor. And I think that's why, because I get females, some girls ask me to be a mentor, sometimes even more spiritual than, or even just in life. And I've said no a couple of times, not because I'm like, I'm too good or I don't want to mentor you, because the mentorship also requires my time. I'm very busy. And I don't want to just say yes to somebody just for saying yes sake, and I'm not able to actually give you my all. Because for me, whatever I do, whatever is worth doing is worth doing well. And if I'm going to say I want to mentor you, I have to be available. Like, I have a mentee who calls me all the time, and it's not like I don't want to be there, but I know that she values what we have. And it's not everyone that can mentor. Some people, I already know that they don't need a mentor. They just want someone in their head. They think someone that just can just tell them, yes, this is good. Someone just, and I'm not that person. If I feel like what you're doing is it's worthy to be called out, I will call you out. So if you don't want to be that person, then you don't need a mentor. But I do believe that mentorship is very important. I want to start wrapping up. So what advice would you give to someone watching, a young person, probably even a young man your age, who is looking at you thinking, wow, Mike, he has it together. Like you're doing something. Some people still, there's just, wandering around life. Like, okay, I'll do this. Not that you shouldn't be optimistic and, want to explore, but you still gotta have to have some sort of structure in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just be like, I just go where the wind blows. Life is not going to work that way, especially if you want to start a family. So one advice that you would give?
I agree. I think balance is everything, right? So I've said before that people should definitely explore, but to give the full picture and the holistic picture, I'm not suggesting you just kind of perpetually go with the flow.
Yeah.
Only dead fish go with the flow. There's a need for planning and structure and stuff like that. I think that if I had to give one advice and distill everything into one thing, I don't want to speak from a vacuum. I want to speak knowing what I know about the culture we're in today. And I think in terms of what I know from the culture we live today, suicide is the biggest killer of men in the UK.
Yes.
Mental health issues have gone through the roof over the past 5 years in the UK, and typically it will be the same in America, and amongst guys specifically, I think it's because a lot of by the way, income for guys is going up in terms of how much guys earn, right?
Yeah.
So clearly the pursuit of money is not yielding the kind of results we were promised.
Yeah.
Said if you just make money, don't worry, everything else will be fine. It's not true.
It's not.
And so what I want to encourage people is failure isn't the problem. I'd say one thing that's worse than failure, it's succeeding at the wrong thing.
Yes. I
think that's worse than failure.
Say again. What is it?
The only thing worse than failure is succeeding at the wrong thing.
Okay. Louder for the people in the back.
What I mean by that is, it must be so destroying. And I've had this experience before, by the way. It must be so destroying when people clap for you for something and you don't even feel connected to what they're clapping to.
Yeah.
It might be like, you smashed this thing, but you don't care. You get employee of the month, but you don't care.
You don't want to even be there.
Your mom's calling you like, you did it. And you're like, I don't feel connected to the achievement. The real me is buried under lots of expectation, people's projections. You're in some law firm where, because you're amazing, you're killing it, but you're not meant to be a lawyer. And you know you're not meant to be a lawyer. So it just feels like, how sad is it?
People.
And now I'm a prisoner to my success.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible, terrible thing. So I say all of that to say that we need to normalize people finishing university or even not going to university, but being optimistic enough to make decisions that are consistent with their hopes, and people not chasing money, but chasing impact, people following purpose and not just this predefined, track of this is what success
so your parents have planned out for you. Yeah, this is what you have to do to make money.
It's the timeline. By 30, I need to have 2 businesses. By 40, I need to forget it. I can give you hundreds of examples of people who started at 34.
Yes.
39 is when they got their big break. 40 is when things started working together. So many different people that I can go through. So let's just ditch that kind of fear complex that a lot of us are forced to live with, and let's embrace hope, let's embrace faith, and let's just follow purpose. Yes,
I love that. Following purpose is so important. And I think for me, one thing I want to say about failure is like failure has a negative connotation in our society, but I actually see failure as an opportunity to learn. You just learn, how not to do it. But because we've been told in school, especially when you have that big red mark on your paper, and everyone's like, oh, sorry, like, it's from a young age where we're like, oh my goodness, that means I'm not good enough because I failed. And as you get older, you're like, actually, this is an opportunity for me to actually go back to my books and learn better. Like, let me know how to do it the next time. And even as a business person, as an entrepreneur, it's not everything that you do that is going to go well. But guess what? People don't come on there to share their story. But I'm going to round up now. Do you have any final words?
No, I think you've said everything. I think your platform's important. These conversations need to be had more. So, wherever this is shared, I encourage people to subscribe and just to ensure that they're connected, because, these conversations are precious, because the world we live in, the opposite things being said. Get a job, make money, girls, get girls and buy expensive stuff. That's what people are hearing all the time. And sometimes we can forget that we're in very, very, very different groups. I'm with friends who all we talk about is purpose and achieving and God and Jesus. People aren't in those groups. So I don't think we should take it for granted, and definitely we should invite more people into this community. So thank you for having me on. And
thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Michael. Love you, bro. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Love you too.
Oh, wow. You said it. All right. Bye, bro.
So that's